The conference room. 27 pairs of eyes locked on you. Your CEO just asked the question. The question. The one that could launch your career into the stratosphere or bury it 6 feet under. Your mouth opens. Nothing. Your mind races. Everything. Your hands tremble. They see it. Then Marcus speaks. Smooth. Confidence. Absolute. The room shifts toward him like planets bending toward the sun. Your moment gone. 3 months later, Marcus gets the promotion. You get the email, "Thank you for your interest." But here's what nobody told you. It wasn't his idea that won, it was his voice. 7 seconds. That's all it took. 7 seconds of communication mastery versus your 7 seconds of paralyzed potential. Today, that changes. Today, you discover why some voices command armies while others can't command attention at a dinner table. This isn't motivation, this is ammunition. Lock in. Power up. Transform now. My name is irrelevant. My story is universal. I stood in that conference room once, frozen, voiceless, invisible. I had the answer. I always had the answer. But answers don't matter when your voice betrays you. For 3 years, I watched promotions go to people who talked better, not people who thought better. I watched deals close for those who sounded certain, even when they were wrong. I watched relationships blossom around those who commanded conversations effortlessly. Meanwhile, I sat in my cube, brilliant ideas dying in my throat, until the day I discovered something that shattered everything I believed about communication. Leadership isn't born, it's built, word by word, breath by breath, decision by decision. The voice you hear commanding boardrooms, engineered through practice, the presence that stops rooms mid-conversation, constructed through discipline, the authority that makes strangers listen, forged through 10 specific principles. Over the next 26 minutes, I'm handing you the blueprint that took me 10 years of failure, humiliation, and breakthrough to discover. 10 chapters, 10 transformations, 1 revolution. By the time we finish, you won't just understand how leaders talk, you'll be someone who talks like a leader. Are you ready to burn your old voice to the ground and build something legendary from the ashes? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Elimination Protocol. Sarah walked into the investor meeting with 47 slides. Detailed. Comprehensive. Perfect. She talked for 38 minutes straight. She lost the deal. David walked into the same meeting 3 weeks later. 3 slides. 9 minutes. He got $5 million. What David understood would change your entire communication strategy. Every unnecessary word is a small theft of your own authority. Most professionals suffer from a disease called verbal obesity. They pack every sentence with explanations, justifications, background information, side notes, and apologetic disclaimers. So, what I was thinking was, maybe we could potentially consider looking at the possibility of adjusting our approach to the client engagement strategy, if that makes sense to everyone. 43 words to say. Let's change our client strategy. 43 opportunities to lose the room. Here's the surgical truth. Elite communicators operate like assassins, not storytellers. Every word has a target. Every sentence accomplishes a mission. No passengers. The Special Forces operator doesn't say, "We're probably going to want to think about moving toward the extraction point when we get a chance." He says, "Move, north, now." 3 words. 0 ambiguity. Total compliance. Your transformation begins with the Elimination Protocol. Step 1. Identify your core message. If someone remembered only one thing from your communication, what would it be? Step 2. State that message in 10 words or less, not 11, 10. Step 3. Build minimal supporting structure. 3 points maximum. Step 4. Cut everything else. Ruthlessly. Savagely. Completely. I applied this to a presentation I'd been preparing for weeks. 17 pages reduced to 2. The 40-minute speech compressed to 8 minutes. The result? Standing ovation. Contract signed on the spot. Career trajectory altered permanently. Listen carefully. Your intelligence isn't measured by how much you say. It's measured by how powerfully you say what matters. Starting today, become a word surgeon. Cut the fat. Expose the bone. Let your skeleton message stand naked and undeniable. Chapter 2. The frequency of dominance. There's a neuroscientific reason why Morgan Freeman's voice makes you trust him before he finishes his first sentence. There's a psychological explanation for why that aggressive colleague sounds desperate even when yelling. There's a biological trigger that makes certain voices command instant respect, while others trigger instant dismissal. The secret lies in frequency, resonance, and one principle most people violate every single day. Deep voices project power. High voices project panic. Before you protest, "But I can't change my voice." Yes, you absolutely can. Jennifer was a senior analyst with a brilliant mind trapped in a nervous, high-pitched delivery. Every presentation felt like an apology. Every meeting felt like begging for permission to exist. Then she hired a vocal coach who taught her something revolutionary. Your voice isn't fixed. It's flexible. The vocal cords respond to breath, posture, and intention. When you breathe shallowly from your chest, your voice emerges thin and reedy. When you breathe deeply from your diaphragm, your voice emerges rich and commanding. Jennifer practiced this exercise religiously for 30 days. Morning. 5 minutes of humming at the lowest comfortable pitch, feeling the vibration in the chest cavity. Afternoon. Reading speeches aloud while consciously lowering pitch 5% below normal. Evening. Recording herself speaking, then listening back and adjusting. Within 6 weeks, her transformation was complete. Same person, different voices, radically different results. Meetings that used to ignore her now stopped when she spoke. Presentations that used to feel like struggles now felt like victories. Same content, opposite effects. The first sounds uncertain, seeking approval, vulnerable to override. The second sounds decided, granting permission, immune to challenge. Your action protocol starts now. 1. Before important conversations, take 6 deep breaths. Feel your diaphragm expand. Feel your chest cavity open. 2. Consciously drop your pitch 5% below conversational norm. It will feel strange initially. That strangeness is growth. 3. End sentences with downward inflection, period, not a question mark. 4. Eliminate upspeak, that toxic habit of making statements sound like questions. Upspeak murders authority faster than any other vocal pattern. Master these 4 elements, and watch as rooms begin reorganizing their attention around your voice instead of away from it. Chapter 3. Strategic silence. The negotiation was dying. Stephen could feel it slipping away. The client had just countered with a lowball offer, insulting, ridiculous, offensive. Every instinct screamed, defend, explain, justify. Stephen did something else, something that would teach him the most valuable lesson of his career. He said nothing. 5 seconds of silence. The client shifted in his chair. 10 seconds. The client cleared his throat. 15 seconds. The client spoke first. Okay, maybe we can go higher. Stephen remained silent for 3 more seconds, then simply nodded. The client increased the offer by 40%. Silence closed a deal that words would have destroyed. Here's what elite communicators know that amateurs never learn. Silence isn't empty space. Silence is compressed power. Think about the most intense movie scenes. They're not the ones with constant dialogue. They're the pregnant pauses before the revelation, the suspended breath before the verdict, the agonizing silence before the answer. Silence creates psychological pressure. It forces the other party to fill the void, and whoever fills the void typically reveals their position, their weakness, their flaw. But there's an art to strategic silence. Amateur silence comes from fear, not knowing what to say. Professional silence comes from discipline, choosing not to say anything. The difference is everything. During my training under a master negotiator, he taught me the silence protocol. When asked a difficult question, pause 3 seconds before answering. This demonstrates you're considering carefully, not reacting desperately. After making your proposal, stop talking completely. Let them process, let them squirm, let them break first. I watched a CEO use this technique during a hostile takeover attempt. The acquiring company's representative delivered a 20-minute aggressive pitch, insulting the CEO's leadership, questioning the company's value, demanding immediate capitulation. The CEO sat perfectly still throughout. When the representative finished, expecting an argument or defense, the CEO waited 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Finally, the CEO spoke one sentence. "Is that everything?" The representative, unnerved by the silence, immediately began backpedaling, softening his position, offering concessions he hadn't planned to offer. The takeover attempt collapsed within a week. Your mission: practice silence daily. When your partner asks what you want for dinner, pause 3 seconds before answering. Feel the power in that gap. When a colleague makes a statement, resist the urge to immediately respond. Let silence sit between their words and yours. When negotiating anything, salary, contract, household decision, make your statement, then shut up. The next person to speak typically loses. This feels unnatural initially. Society conditions us to fear conversational gaps. Override that conditioning. Silence isn't absence of communication. Silence is the most powerful communication tool you possess. Chapter 4. Declarative Dominance. Michael walked into every meeting the same way. Do you think we should? Would it be okay if? Can I just? Maybe we could. Questions. Endless questions. Permission-seeking disguised as collaboration. He wondered why nobody respected his ideas, despite them being consistently excellent. The answer devastated him. He communicated like a child asking for candy, not a leader stating direction. Leadership language operates on one fundamental principle: declarative sentences dominate, interrogative sentences subordinate. When you ask, should we implement this strategy, you position yourself as one voice among equals, seeking consensus. When you state, we're implementing this strategy, you position yourself as a decision maker, offering direction. Feel the seismic shift. One invites debate before action. One declares action before debate. This doesn't mean becoming tyrannical. It means owning your judgments with conviction. Compare these transformations. Weak. Do you guys think maybe we should consider changing the deadline? Strong. The deadline is moving to Friday. Weak. Would anyone be open to trying a different approach? Strong. We're trying a different approach. Weak. Is it okay if I share my perspective? Strong. Here's my perspective. Same information, radically different authority. But here's where people stumble. They confuse declarative dominance with arrogance. Let me clarify. Arrogance says, my way is the only way, and you're stupid for questioning it. Declarative dominance says, this is the direction, I've considered the options, we're moving forward. One attack, one leads. The transformation happens through deliberate practice. For 30 days, I eliminated every permission-seeking question from my professional vocabulary. People responded with relief. They'd been waiting for someone to provide direction instead of endlessly soliciting opinions.
Meetings shortened by 40%. Decisions accelerated dramatically. Respect materialized seemingly from nowhere.
Why? Because certainty is magnetic. Uncertainty is repellent. Humans are tribal creatures seeking leadership. When you communicate with declarative certainty, something primal activates in those around you. They instinctively align with your direction because direction feels safer than drift. Your assignment: audit your next 10 professional communications. Count your questions versus statements. If questions outnumber statements, you're communicating as a follower, hoping to become a leader. Flip that ratio. Make declarations, take positions, own directions. Watch as the world stops debating with you and starts following you. Chapter 5: Physical Command. Before Marcus spoke a single word, he'd already won the room. He entered through the door like he owned the building. Shoulders back, head level. Steps are deliberate, eyes scanning, not searching. He moved to the front, planted his feet, made eye contact with each person for exactly 3 seconds. Then, only then, did he speak. His body had already delivered the message: I belong here. You will listen to what comes next. This is the brutal truth that crushes careers. 93% of communication impact comes from non-verbal elements. 7% comes from words. Let that ratio destroy any illusion that content alone determines influence. Your posture, gestures, facial expressions, spatial positioning, and movement patterns communicate volumes before your mouth opens. Slouched shoulders broadcast defeat before you argue your case. Fidgeting hands signal nervousness before you deliver your proposal. Wandering eyes project dishonesty before you make your claim. Your body writes checks. Your words have to cash. If there's a mismatch between physical presentation and verbal content, people trust the body every time. I learned this the hard way during a critical pitch. I'd prepared brilliant content. My slides were perfect. My research was flawless. But I stood with weight shifting foot to foot. I gestured aimlessly. I looked at my notes more than the audience. The content was strong. The delivery was weak. Weak delivery killed strong content. I didn't get the contract. That failure drove me to study physical command with the same intensity I'd studied verbal communication. What I discovered transformed everything. Elite communicators engineer their physical presence with military precision. The power stance. Feet shoulder width apart. Weight distributed evenly. Knees slightly bent. This stance projects stability, readiness, confidence. The ownership walk. Move purposefully. Each step is deliberate. No shuffling, no hesitation. You're not wandering. You're claiming territory. The authority gaze. Hold eye contact for 4 seconds per person in group settings. This duration builds connection without triggering discomfort. Less than 4 feels evasive. More than 6 feel aggressive. The stillness signal. During crucial moments, eliminate all movement. Becomes sculpture. Movement distracts. Stillness amplifies. The open frame. Keep hands visible. Open palms signal transparency. Hidden hands trigger suspicion. Arms crossed signal defensiveness. I drilled these elements for 6 months, 15 minutes daily in front of a mirror, adjusting posture, refining gestures, perfecting stillness. The transformation was staggering. Same person, same ideas, different physical containers. Meetings that used to ignore me now gravitated toward me. Presentations that used to feel like begging now felt like commanding. Your body is the stage your words perform on. If the stage is shaky, the performance fails regardless of script quality. Starting today, Stand before a mirror. Deliver a simple statement. This is the direction we're taking. Watch everything. Note every fidget, every shift, every wandering eye, every collapsed shoulder. Correct. Refine. Repeat. Do this daily until physical command becomes unconscious, until your body naturally projects authority without deliberate thought. When physical mastery merges with verbal precision, you become unstoppable. Chapter 6. Emotional Fortress. The client screamed. Actually, I screamed. This is unacceptable. This is amateur. This is completely... Rebecca didn't flinch, didn't raise her voice, didn't defend. She waited until he exhausted himself. Then, in a tone colder than winter steel, she said, I understand you're frustrated. Here's how we fix it. The room froze. The client's rage collapsed like a punctured balloon. Within 5 minutes, they'd mapped a solution. The client apologized before leaving. Rebecca had demonstrated something most professionals never master: emotional regulation under fire. Here's the devastating reality. Your authority is determined not by how you communicate in comfort, but by how you communicate in chaos. Anyone can sound confident during friendly conversations. Leaders maintain composure when challenged, insulted, or attacked. The moment pressure arrives, most people do one of two things. They collapse into apology. Oh God, you're right. I'm so sorry. I'll fix everything immediately. I don't know what I was thinking. Or they escalate into aggression. How dare you talk to me like that? This is completely out of line. Both responses are emotional incontinence. Both destroy credibility instantly. The elite response requires something most haven't trained: the ability to feel emotion without being controlled by it. Every instinct demanded I defend myself immediately, loudly, emotionally. Instead, I deployed the Fortress Protocol. Step 1. Physiological reset. 2 deep breaths. 4 counts in, 6 counts out. This triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, countering the stress response. Step 2. Acknowledge without accepting. I hear your concern, not you're right, and not you're wrong. Simple acknowledgement. Step 3. Redirect to solution. Here's the path forward. Shift from blame to resolution. Step 4. Maintain vocal steadiness. Keep the pitch low. Keep pace measured. Keep volume controlled. The client's emotional energy had nowhere to go. I gave him no resistance to push against, no fuel to feed his fire. Within 3 minutes, he de-escalated completely. We solved the issue collaboratively. After the meeting, 5 people approached me privately. Same message: I want to work with you. That was incredible. My emotional control became a competitive advantage. Train this skill immediately. It's not instinctive. It requires deliberate practice. Have a trusted person role-play aggressive scenarios. Practice maintaining composure while being verbally attacked. Uncomfortable? Absolutely. Essential? Completely. Because the real tests arrive without warning. The ambush criticism. The public challenge. The hostile confrontation. In those moments, rehearsed composure becomes your fortress. Your voice remains steady when others crack. Your presence remains solid when others crumble. And people remember. They remember who stayed calm. They remember who stayed strong. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about channeling discipline. Feel everything. Show nothing you haven't chosen to show. That's the difference between emotional reactivity and emotional intelligence. That's the difference between followers and leaders. Chapter 7. The Architecture of Influence. Great ideas die every single day. Not because they're bad ideas, because they're poorly communicated. Martin had the solution to his company's biggest problem. The solution was brilliant. The presentation was catastrophic. He opened with background history, then market analysis, then technical specifications, then budget projections, then finally, 27 minutes in, he revealed the actual solution. By minute 27, nobody was listening. Compare that to Elizabeth. Same company, different approach. She walked to the front and said, "We're losing 2 million annually to inefficiency. I found a way to recover 90% of it. Here's how." 15 seconds. Every person leaned forward. Elizabeth understood message architecture, the structural framework that determines whether ideas land or evaporate. Most communicators bury their critical message under layers of preamble, context, justification, and meandering detail. Elite communicators lead with impact, support with specificity, close with action. The formula is elegant. The compelling statement that arrests attention immediately. The essential message is distilled to maximum clarity. The minimal evidence required to validate the core. The specific next step is clearly defined. Nothing else. No historical context, unless absolutely necessary. No tangential information. No diplomatic cushioning. I redesigned every presentation I delivered using this architecture. The transformation was immediate and dramatic. The results speak volumes. 50% shorter presentations, 3 times higher acceptance rate, 5 times more referrals. Why? Because respect for attention is respect for authority. When you waste people's time with unnecessary preambles, you communicate, "I don't trust my message to stand alone." When you deliver immediate value, you communicate, "I'm confident this matters, and I'm not afraid to prove it quickly." Your transformation assignment. Take your next important communication, email, presentation, proposal, pitch. Identify the most important sentence, the one thing they must understand or remember. Move that sentence to position 1. Open with it. Lead with it. Grab attention with it. Everything that follows should directly support that sentence or call people to act on it. If a section doesn't serve one of those 2 purposes, eliminate it completely. This feels wrong initially. You'll worry you're being too abrupt, too direct, too aggressive. You're not. You're being respectful of the scarcest resource anyone possesses, attention. Architecture determines whether buildings stand or collapse. Message architecture determines whether ideas influence or evaporate. Build structural integrity into every communication. Lead with strength. Support with precision. Close with clarity. Watch as your influence multiplies simply because your messages finally match your intelligence. Chapter 8. Conviction over consensus. Daniel wanted everyone to agree before moving forward. He thought that's what good leaders did. Build consensus, honor all perspectives, ensure nobody felt excluded. His projects took 3 times longer than competitors. His team respected him personally, but didn't trust his leadership. Why? Because seeking universal agreement is abdication wearing a democracy costume. This is controversial but crucial. Leadership is not consensus building. Leadership is decision-making. Gathering input? Smart. Weighing perspectives? Intelligent. Waiting for everyone to agree? Organizational suicide. The most transformational decisions in history were not popular, they were visionary. Landing on the moon. Investing in personal computers. Building electric vehicles. Streaming instead of cable. Every revolutionary direction faced massive opposition initially. Leaders pushed forward anyway, not because they were arrogant, because they trusted their judgment more than they feared disapproval. I learned this during a company restructuring I was leading. I spent 6 weeks trying to get buy-in from every department head. Endless meetings, constant revisions, perpetual compromise. The result? A watered-down plan that satisfied nobody and solved nothing. My mentor pulled me aside and said something that changed my leadership philosophy forever. You're trying to be liked. Leaders aren't hired to be liked. They're hired to be right. I scrapped the consensus approach. I made the call based on best available data and strategic judgment. 3 departments protested loudly. I acknowledged their concerns, explained my reasoning, then moved forward anyway. 18 months later, the restructuring was vindicated by results. The 3 protesting departments were thriving. 2 of those department heads admitted I'd been right. Here's what I learned. People don't need to agree with your decision. They need to trust you made a decision. Indecisiveness breeds anxiety. Certainty breeds security, even if people initially disagree with the direction. Your communication must reflect this principle. Instead of, what does everyone think about this direction? Say, here's the direction. What obstacles do you foresee? The first seeks permission. The second grants it while inviting practical input. Instead of, can we all agree this is the right approach? Say, this is the approach. Question. The first begs for validation. The second establishes reality. This doesn't mean ignoring input. It means recognizing the difference between gathering intelligence and seeking permission. Smart leaders are voracious information consumers. They ask questions constantly, but when decision time arrives, they decide clearly, quickly, confidently. Your assignment: practice making unilateral decisions in low-stakes situations first. We're ordering lunch from Antonio's. No poll, no discussion, just direction. Notice how people adjust without resistance. They often prefer someone else to shoulder that burden. As you build this muscle, apply it progressively to larger decisions. When someone protests, "Don't we get input?" respond, "Input was gathered." Decisions are made. Execution begins now. That's not tyranny. That's leadership. Groups don't innovate. Individuals do. Groups execute that innovation. Your voice must communicate decisions, not debate. Direction, not democracy. That's when followers become believers. Chapter 9. Consistency as Currency. James gave an incredible speech at the annual meeting. Passionate, inspiring. Everyone left motivated. 3 weeks later, in a routine team meeting, he was scattered, rambling, apologetic. The inspiration evaporated. James confused performance with presence. He thought leadership was about peak moments. Leadership is about pattern, not performance. Your single brilliant communication means nothing if your daily interactions remain mediocre. People don't follow sporadic excellence. They follow predictable standards. Think about athletes. Fans don't celebrate the player who scores 50 points once then disappears. They celebrate the player who delivers 20 points every single game. Consistency beats intensity. Your communication operates identically. The authority you build isn't from one amazing presentation. It's from showing up the same way. Meeting after meeting, conversation after conversation, crisis after crisis. This consistency operates across multiple dimensions. Tonal consistency. Your voice during pressure should match your voice during ease. Steady, measured, reliable. Leaders who swing between cheerleader and dictator create environments of constant anxiety. Nobody knows which version they'll encounter. Message consistency. Your core values shouldn't shift with convenience. If accountability matters Monday, it matters Friday when accountability is uncomfortable. Relational consistency. Treat every person with identical respect regardless of title. Power corrupts when it creates communication hierarchies. Decision consistency. Your criteria for choices should be transparent and repeatable. Random decisions breed distrust. I discovered this after receiving brutal feedback from my team. They said, "We never know which version of you we're getting." That feedback shattered my self-image. I thought I was being authentic by showing all my moods and variations. Wrong. I was being inconsistent. Inconsistency forces others to constantly recalibrate their relationship with you. I implemented the consistency protocol, daily morning ritual, 15 minutes defining the leadership presence I would maintain that day. Same tone, same energy, same standards. Weekly audit, recording key interactions, analyzing consistency, correcting drift. Monthly feedback, asking 3 people, am I showing up consistently? Within 3 months, the transformation was complete. Not because I became robotic, but because I became reliable. My team relaxed into productivity because they knew what to expect. They trusted the pattern I'd established. Consistency doesn't mean monotony. It means your core leadership presence remains constant, even while adapting tactics to situations. You can be urgent Monday and contemplative Friday, but your underlying authority, respect, and clarity should be identical across both. Your challenge: define your leadership voice in 3 words. Mine are calm, clear, certain. Now audit your last 5 important communications. Did those 3 words describe each one? If not, you're drifting. Drift destroys authority faster than failure. Lock in your pattern. Show up the same way repeatedly until that way becomes synonymous with your name. Then watch as authority stops being something you perform and becomes something others simply assume. Chapter 10. The Integration. 10 chapters. 10 transformations. 1 unified system. You've learned elimination, economy, brevity. You've learned resonance, frequency, vocal control. You've learned consistency as currency, pattern over performance. Now comes the crucial moment where everything converges. Integration. These aren't separate techniques you toggle on and off. They're interlocking elements of a single system called leadership voice. Watch how they combine. You enter a meeting. You wait for attention rather than demanding it. You state your position in 10 words. You speak from your diaphragm with downward inflection. You make a declaration, not a suggestion. Someone challenges aggressively. You acknowledge, redirect, maintain composure. You close with clear action steps. Every element working together, every principle reinforces the others. This is the leadership voice, the single most valuable skill you can develop for career acceleration, relationship influence, and personal power. But here's the final truth nobody wants to hear. Reading about these principles changes nothing. Practicing them changes everything. Knowledge without application is entertainment, not transformation. Starting tomorrow morning, you face a choice. The most important choice of your professional life. Will you communicate the way you always have, hesitant, verbose, seeking approval, hoping to be heard? Or will you implement one principle, then another, then another? Building communication mastery through deliberate daily practice. Champions aren't born on game day. They're built through 10,000 training sessions nobody witnesses. Your communication championship requires identical commitment. Record yourself, listen back, cringe at the fillers, the qualifiers, the upspeak, the rambling, then correct. Then record again. Then correct it again. This process is humbling. This process is uncomfortable. This process is absolutely necessary because the voice you've been using has gotten you to where you are. The voice you're building will take you where you need to go. You remember the opening? The conference room. 27 pairs of eyes. Your moment stolen by Marcus. Here's what happens next time. You walk into that room differently. Your posture commands attention before you speak. You wait for silence. You don't chase it. You create it through presence. The CEO asks the question. You pause. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Then you answer in 10 words. Clear, certain, complete. You stop talking. Let silence amplify your message. Someone challenges me. You don't react, you respond. Steady, strong, you close with direction. Here's what we're implementing. The room shifts toward you like gravity finally found its center. 3 months later, you get the promotion, not because you're smarter than Marcus, because you sound like leadership. The voice you've built changes everything. Career trajectory, relationship dynamics, personal power, professional influence. But transformation doesn't happen in this audiobook. Transformation happens in the thousands of small moments after you finish listening. The meeting is tomorrow. The conversation at lunch. The presentation next week. The negotiation next month. Each moment is an opportunity to apply one principle, then another, until the principles stop being techniques and start being you. Until you stop talking like a leader and simply become someone who leads through communication. This is your awakening. This is your revolution. This is your moment. The world has been waiting for your voice, the real one, the powerful one, the one you just discovered how to build. Now go forth and speak with the authority you've earned through 26 minutes of focused transformation. Speak less, meaning more. Command effortlessly. Your leadership voice has arrived. Use it to change your world.